Psychotechnologies
Technologies
live.
live. Woo! I like the slight pause live. We're developing our little tune here.
Yeah, building that anticipation.
Yeah. All right. So personal development, right? We were talking last time about opportunity and how you might want to. I was exploring the topic of and what is opportunity and how to get into it. But there's a question here of because opportunity is something that falls under the big umbrella of personal development, right?
It's like a concept within personal development. Yeah, but also like not.
It can be separate as well. But I was interested in what is personal development?
What is personal development? Can a person even develop, or are they just born perfect?
Well, let me tell you, in my case, I was born perfect. In your case, however, you've got a lot to grow, not more growing to do.
So, like, I have a purpose being here in this world, is what you're saying, but
I'm done. So personal development, usually we talk about the personal development industry, right? Which is the way that I would put it is that if you're paying about $500,000 for a CEO or so, you kind of want to get your money's worth out, which means that you're probably willing to pay another 50 to 100,000 for a coach or some sort of training for this person to be the best version of a person they can be. And this sort of justifies the return, the cost of the personal development industry. If you can get $1 million out of your $500,000 minimum, maybe it's worth every cent to spend on retreats and coaches and some other personality profiling in order to develop a person.
Yeah.
So there's a whole industry called the personal development industry, often marketed towards business. And it sometimes feels like spirituality, like in the way that spirituality helps people to grow, but marketed towards business. And obviously, because we live in capitalist society, people have to afford to eat. So they are funding themselves by running development courses and training.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of this stuff is pointed at business, is because like if you're running a self-development business, you need people to pay for it. If you're doing it for free,
right. If you are just running a meditation center and you wish people to meditate and become the best version of themselves, then maybe you try and keep your costs down and you don't charge a lot of money and you make the world a better place that way. But if you're running a business in developing other people's personhoods, you better know how to charge or else you're going to go out of business.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah. This stuff is very complicated and I don't have a good perspective or grip on it. I have a lot of the pieces I understand, but like I don't have like that overarching perspective on or orient towards it.
Right. So you asked the question, can a person develop? Which is actually a reasonably good question. And I guess I would start with Jack here in the corner. Can Jack develop? And in the case of smaller children or babies, it just seems obvious that they in fact can develop. We do expect this to be a fully fledged human in the future.
Yeah, I mean, he has developed, and we actually have this book. My mom's an OT, so we have this book at her house that every time we go there, we go through, and it's how early childhood development essentially, and in different categories, and then we look through and we see where he's at. Because as parents, we're always panicking, is he developing fast enough? So we always look at that, and let's say well documented or something like that.
Yeah, interesting. So kids can obviously develop, right? But
Yeah.
can adults develop?
I know this from direct experience.
Or we also teenagers, right? You're not still a teenager. I'm not still a teenager. We know that we grew up from teenager, right? So teenagers can develop somehow, although some people remain teenagers the rest of their lives.
I strive to be that way. Yeah. Yeah, teenagers can definitely develop for sure. Like look at someone in their teens and look at someone when they leave their teens. I think at this point, like a lot of people would say, and I'm just like, I don't have good perspective here, so feel free to shift frames however you want. But I think a lot of people would say that like they have this big question is, can you do it intentionally? Or is this just like a biological, let's say, process?
Like, right, river of life, teenagers become adults when you just give them a bunch of time. Or can we like accelerate that learning?
Yeah. And I think like there's like in that question, there's a bunch of different questions that range from it, like the range from like it doesn't matter, like the answers are it doesn't matter to like actually we need to nuance this out if we're gonna even talk about self-development.
So I feel like we can isolate a little bit. What about developing skills on a particular dimension? Right. So you can take someone, put them through an engineering degree, and they'll have all these skills of engineering, right?
Yeah.
And we could, is that developed? Have they developed some skill in engineering?
I think so. Yeah. Like that's what I would say. Like
right. So
yeah.
So development along this one axis. So along the engineering axis, we can train people. We can make them better engineers by teaching them some math stuff or something. Yeah. Maybe some people would still be good engineers without training, but debatably.
But, like I do find it hard to believe that like someone could build a building without
safely
learned safely, effectively,
without having gone through
how to do that. Like without having learned a bunch in some form of education, be that school or books or
right. So I would say like back in the olden days, if you wanted to build a house, you would just build your damn house, and if it fell down a bit, you'd sort of build it out of stronger bits here and there. And you could definitely screw up in some ways, but
like also you're seeing people around like building houses.
Right. There's probably a net benefit to safety, to standardizing and building in ways that we know is going to work. Yeah.
Like I don't think I could really build it. Like I'm sure I could build a log cabin, but like it probably wouldn't be like very good.
So would it be airtight?
Yeah, you could like put a bunch of mud and seal it.
Oh yeah. So maybe you could. Yeah.
But like should it be airtight? Like I don't even know.
So I would say that on the dimension of engineering, it seems like we can develop an engineer. We can take a nobody and turn them into more of an engineer than before by putting them through a degree. So that's the dimension. Engineering is one we're allowed to develop on. I feel like doctoring and like sort of many of the qualifications are dimensions in which we can improve on by educating. And that's just the education process, right? That's not what we necessarily mean by personal development, but there's definitely some dimensions that we can develop on.
Yeah. And so I think I like what you're doing here, where you're kind of just taking like, hey, there's this big picture, there's humans, and they go from that to this, and we're calling that development. And there are a bunch of different aspects to it. And one of them is education, right? Like they didn't know a bunch of facts. He doesn't know a bunch of facts. He's going to go to school, learn a bunch of facts. He's not going to know how to build things. He's going to learn, whether that's through Legos and exploration or through like a teacher or textbooks or video lectures, and then he's going to learn how to do that. So you're like starting all the way on this like thing that everybody agrees with, and then we're going to start to slowly inch towards the more controversial parts of self-development.
Right. So basic learning, right? We can learn math skills. We know that. We do that in primary school generally. We learn math. To a certain level, if we want more, you have to go to university or read more textbooks or invent your own math as as you get higher up the complexity of mathematics.
Yeah, that one's interesting because I don't know that you can actually teach that. Like, can you teach someone to to invent something new?
You can definitely get closer to it, but there's also there's this risk, right? That if you are, it's the classic, you can't teach someone to think outside the box, right? Because if I teach you how to do it, then all I've taught you done is put you inside the box and taught you how to what I've taught you. And so there's some need to get to a new place or develop something other than what is taught, at least in the standard conventional sense. Although there also must be a way, to convey more mysterious or more nuanced learning pieces of wisdom. Obviously, there's a type of knowledge that is you read it in a book and then you can write it out, right? And there's only so much you can get from repeating knowledge that has come at you, right? There's a different type of learning that is more like an experiential learning or like a knowledge from doing, which is a lot, I would say, harder to teach and also closer to what personal development is.
Yeah, so when you're saying that you can't teach someone to think outside the box.
We've got baby things. We got baby things going on.
We all have COVID in the house, so the stream might be a little filled with the cries of babies.
Think outside the box, right?
Yeah. So are you saying that you can't teach someone how to do that?
Well, it's a bit of a paradox, right? Because somehow I learned to think outside the box, and somehow lots of my schooling and education existed to encourage me to have novel thoughts or to think for myself or to form my own opinions. And yet somehow I in fact learned that. I didn't just learn the words think outside the box and then repeat the phrase think outside the box. I'd like to believe I learned how to do that thing.
And you think like schooling or someone else taught you that, or do you think it's like just a natural evolution that humans go through? They reach a certain age, certain stuff happens, big genetics, whatever, and then you're the person, you can think outside the box, or you have this mysterious creativity that you're able to do and you don't know where it comes from, or involuntary. Like how do you, I guess, how would you like conceptualize this within the framework of personal development? Right. Or within the context, I should say.
Yes, I think it is tricky. I think also, if we can conceptualize what it is to think inside the box, and we can teach that, then we can help people organize and recognize when they are in fact inside the box. And there's some really good reasons to think inside boxes. Boxes might be like a time limit or maybe a budget, right? I can think within a budget. I can only make the project work if it will fit within the budget. So I need to fit, and then I can have dreams that will like expand upon the budget. And if I had no money, if money was no object, I could do a very different project than if I have to think within the box of this financial limit, and therefore I have to deliver it at this cost.
Yeah, I like how you're saying that. Like you're kind of like giving the box its due credit.
Due credit, absolutely, and its place in society. Particularly, there's some parts of society that we really like to be stable and to be secure. I would say that like we don't like it when our government changes a lot or when the rules change underneath us. We really like it when the rule of law stays to one thing, and it has a disadvantage because it moves very slowly. And obviously in a world today where we have a lot of technology and innovation and things are changing, the legal system isn't changing as fast, and they're sort of grinding their gears against one another, innovation and the legal system. But we still like the legal system to move a little bit slower than the cutting edge visionary of artist creativity, which can move very quickly. So there is a place for the stable box, and then there is a place for everything else, the less stable stuff and the thinking outside the box. Oh.
I take it the personal development for you is going to be the stuff that takes place outside the box, more or less, versus like the regular education system, which is what takes place inside the box.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat that because there were some baby noises there. Is personal development what's outside the box, and the regular education system what's inside the box? I would say not necessarily. Some of personal development is going to help us to get outside the box. And sometimes the regular education system helps us to get outside the box. But more importantly, also, some of personal development may be teaching people to get inside the box and stick to the box. You know, people, what is taking one person and developing them may be like, for example, if you send someone into the army, you take one person who's, you know, humans are a little chaotic at times. They have things like ADHD and they go to sleep and wake up at whatever time they like. And you put them through a routine army training program. They will probably come out of that program organized, orderly, procedural, systematic, in a way that they didn't have when they went into that program. And what I would say is that could be development for that person. We could have taken a person who was too disorganized, who was potentially, cautious with the word, dysfunctional at life, and put them through a systematized, ordered process. And the army happens to be a very good system for training people because people's lives depend on getting it right. And so it's quite a good hierarchy of training and systematic and helping people break down their stuff and get to a good place. But not without its disadvantages, but that could be personal development for someone to go through this organized process. Could be personal development.
That's interesting because like the army kind of is the definition of like a box where like everything is like extremely regimented and is like, you will listen to this, you will do this,
you'll stand still, you will clean things, your
bed has to be made. Why do I have to make my bed? Like, what does it do? It's because we're the army. That's what we do.
I don't actually know if they make your bed, but they probably do. I've never been in the army. I'm a little bit too far away. Clearly, I have some preconceptions.
From what I hear, I think.
Yeah, from what I hear, yes, they probably have rigid structures that you must adhere to. But yeah, they do teach you something. And that may be personal development for someone. And then
there's like a lot of people I know, like even me when I was younger. I actually tried to get into the reserves, but they rejected me, which made me very sad.
You've come back very soft. I think your microphone has smartly adjusted itself.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, interesting. So personal development. So I have my CEO class human, right? He's about to take over a multinational corporation, and I'm about to pay him $1 million a year to do it. I don't even know. It can be, sometimes it's up to like many millions of dollars a year, right? But I want the most out of him. So hopefully I've already picked a really good person. And then from that, I want the best out of him. So I want him, I want to say like a well-oiled machine, like a well-honed, sharp knife, well-sharpened knife. And I want them truthful. I want them strategic. I want like a whole bunch of qualities to go into this person. I want them efficient, right? And I want to get all of these qualities into the one person, and then I want to spread it down the hierarchy from this person, set the company culture, and have it go really well, hopefully.
Yeah, and like temperament
Right.
and clear-headedness and like present, like not distracted by other things. Like if this, this merger means, could be thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people's jobs and all that.
Right.
It could have ramifications to the economy. Like there are people in the world who their temperaments and like how they engage with the world or how they are has a huge impact on things.
Right. So I want this person themselves to have a particular temperament. I want them to hopefully be positive about themselves, the company, the people they're working with, and I want that to spread down, particularly with organizational hierarchies. The culture, the boss says to their underling, and their relationship and the culture that they spread to their underling, the underling spreads to their underlings. They like, if you have several levels of hierarchy, they spread all the way to the bottom of the hierarchy, and then that culture spreads to the customer. So if it's not good at the top, it's not going to be good at the bottom either. So if the boss is always annoyed at his staff, and the staff are always annoyed at their staff, then the staff will be annoyed at the customers. So that's a terrible way to be. So we really need to get that stuff right from the top.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And startup, like I like the startup like culture stuff more, and like that stuff is very like, yeah, you gotta like your founders and like your first people, like they set the tone, they set the vibes, they set the way of being, and like that company culture, like you're saying, it's not the only thing that's important, obviously, but it has a huge, it can have like huge impacts on like, are people motivated, are people present, like are they with the company, or are they just like putting in their hours, are they just trying to suck up to the other person, or they're trying to get the work done? And if they're trying to get the work done, is that person like, are they recognized, or is everyone else playing the politics games, and then all the good people kind of just leave or get fired?
Right. So personal development. So we want to get the most out of this person, but let's also take someone's just been working in a store, they've been working customer facing, and they're about to become a manager, right? So suddenly their responsibilities have gone from just talking to whoever to managing a team of 5 maybe. And obviously there's a human limit. So if you are managing 10 people, you're probably having a bad time, just because it's hard to manage 10 people. It takes a lot of energy, and you're probably not doing a very good job at it because 10 is a lot. So let's pretend they're managing 5 people. You've just been promoted from not managing anyone to managing 5 people. Like, again, that thing about the culture is going to play out here. If you're not trained in how to relate to the people underneath you, how to respect them, how to reward them, how to relate to the people above you, how to ask for what your people need,
how to bring out what's best in them, how to to their creativity, how to create a safe environment.
Right. So there's like, it becomes difficult to be specific about what these skills are, but not impossible. So there's some sort of personal relational skill that is going to make a better manager. So as we put that on the list of, here's what I want for my managers, I'm going to they must have these qualities. They must be able to bring out the best in people. That must be trainable. Like, realistically, there must be a way to train that into humans.
Is that true? Because earlier we said this out of the box thinking. So I think like to a certain extent, creativity or like it depends what your business does, but like something like startups where they're going from, Paul Graham calls us like 0 to 1, where if you're a startup, you're definitionally, like, let's say mostly you're doing something that nobody's done before, and so you can't train somebody to do that.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
Especially when it's like you're like at the business and you're like, okay, I need you to do a thing that I don't know what it is and nobody's done before and nobody knows how to do, and I need you to do it well.
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is. You have to figure out what I need. You have to figure out how to do it. And, like, it's like, it becomes this, like, I don't know, like so abstracted to lose, not to lose, but like, there's like this sense that you could lose the groundedness, or like you're inventing you're like you're inventing new things.
Right. So open question there of like, can you train someone to do that thing?
Yeah.
Well, I would say with great difficulty. And to go back on what I said earlier, you should be able to train someone to be a manager. Not everyone is trainable. There are some people out there who cannot learn that skill, especially, and maybe who cannot learn that skill right now and will need to go through a greater journey to get to that thing.
Who it's not worth it to learn that skill.
Right. Well, also some people shouldn't be managing. They should be in non-management jobs. They should be in, they're perfectly good at simple jobs and not good at complex jobs.
Or they're good at, careful, because you kind of implied there that managing is complex, and then the people being managed is less complex.
Right, implying that managing multiple people can be more complicated than not managing multiple people.
Yeah, when I think it could, I think it's a different skill set. Like, it could be.
Right. So for example, coding could be more complicated than managing 3 coders or 5 coders, where you just need to make sure that they are sort of doing and coding and confirm that they are in fact doing, but you don't need to know what they're coding.
Yeah, exactly.
So fair enough. Some people are better off and enjoy more the coding than the managing the coders. Yep.
Yeah. And those are different skill sets, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other.
No, hopefully we need all of the players in the game to win on the team.
Yeah. It's like, what is this? Rotators versus
word cells.
Word cells. But yeah, that's different. Let's do this.
That's even like, we're talking like social relational versus logical. That's not really word cell shape rotator. That's a different dimension.
That sounds like a word cell thing to say.
But it's not necessarily, because it's an emotional thing, or a like, it can be wordy and non-emotional.
Yeah, management is real and has real impacts when you do it right or wrong, and that means it's like, I guess, on this dimension of shape rotation of like, yeah, for sure. Like, I've been Scrum Master before, and that's a lot. It's not exactly managing them, but it's kind of this. A lot of my job was to do that, and like, yeah, like, it's the difference. Like me doing my job correctly is the difference between them doing nothing or the equivalent of that, and them like being ineffective, like doing the job effectively. And like, since it was like a online, like, since it was like a let's say a computer or web-based like business, then it's essentially like, is this going to happen or not? And like, that could easily be down to the manager.
Right.
And a good manager, and I think it's not up to them if you do your job right. But yeah, so you're saying you can teach these things, or these things are teachable, or there's
Well, hopefully
that can be created in which it brings out the best in people.
Right. And hopefully we can train people to get close to that. We can actually bring out the best in people so that they can bring out the best in other people.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're looking at this as sort of like from a manager perspective, like the self-development is for these managers.
Potentially, yes. Well, it could be everyone in your business could stand to develop personally and could benefit from it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Because like, even the programmers and such, there's like developing the programming abilities, and like, that's a thing that I think would not. I guess it could be like personal development, but I guess it's probably not really psychotechnology personal development. Like learning a new language, or learning the new math to.
Well, let me tell you. So I had a story from a friend of mine who was working in a coding type role, and they were working in a company, and it was like under 10 people. And someone new joined the team and said, we have to throw out all this work. We have to recode this from the beginning. And it happened to be, it was all of this person's work, like 100 hours worth of coding and preparing. And there was this debate as to whether some of it could be retained or if all of it had to be thrown out, and it basically broke down. It broke down into like a very toxic. Turns out the new person who had moved in was pretty damn toxic and was like successfully managed to throw all this out, and then got in an argument, and then like basically tore the company to shreds by setting up like he said, she said, he was mean to me, like all of this stuff.
One guy did this, like a new guy.
I was fascinating, right? Seeing from a distance, able to be fascinated at the whole drama that was going on. My friend happily like said, screw this, I'm leaving to find a better company, and did so, and is very happy, but was fascinated by like what the heck happened and what was going on, and was there a way in which we could have improved what the heck happened if we had retrained them in relational context, or retrained them in
who's their scrum master?
Well, it was such a small group that even the scrum master type role person got drawn into the drama, and then all was lost to the great spirals that are drama.
Who's the product owner?
The scrum master was but drawn in, stuck in.
Yeah, that's yeah. That's it. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the top, like if
there was no objectivity, no withdrawn top. Yeah.
There's at least one person that is, quote unquote in charge. And they need to kind of keep a strong frame,
mm-hmm.
or at least like cut out weak ones or something. Like they need to like be there, be on top of it in a way that's other people can relate to, or else that whole culture is just gonna, like you're saying, like one person could come in and like a 10-man team and one person comes in and fucks the whole thing up. Like that's, yeah, like you didn't do your culture correctly.
Right. But there's a question here is, could we have personally developed them, given them interpersonal skills such that this didn't happen? And I would like to think so. I would like to think that.
I mean, it depends on
we can.
Probably, yeah.
But maybe we can be more specific by like, what are the elements of personal development? Like, what sort of work might someone want to be doing? So I've implied this sort of like a coaching work here, right? You sit with a coach and great question mark. What do you do?
That is a great question. What do you do when you're sitting with a coach?
So one thing you might do is you might reflect on your last week or two and look for things that didn't go as it intended. As in, maybe you got in an argument with someone, or maybe you tried to do something but found you procrastinated. And then sort of break it down. And, it's the coach's job to listen to the story, confirm that you're being honest about the details and not deluding yourself, and sort of look for ways in which they can innovate your process, so that, if it was that you were yelling at someone in an argument, is there a way we can do that better? And you might sit with the coach and work through how we might do that better. So that's one thing a coach might do. Starting from that point, a coach may go into like prior things, like early childhood things. Like, are you a person who has to be super organized ever since you were a teenager and ... right? And so you've built into your personality a tendency, a habitual pattern of being super organized. Is this good? Is this bad? It can be bad if you're spending too much time on it and not enough time getting stuff done. Then the coach can work with you and look at your past, look at your habitual past patterns, and help you process them and come to peace with them, so that you don't have to be so over controllingly organized, as an example. So one thing,
like kind of like character flaws, you kind of
right, particularly, and like I said, when you're at the top, your character flaws get amplified down the whole hierarchy until your customers have are receiving the worst end of it. Right?
Yeah, the exaggerated pathology that the founder has.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to catch it early and to process these character flaws. It's very easy to feel like it's a consciousness thing. We have minds floating in a universe of different frames, right? And so it's very easy to float down to the end of one extreme of one particular frame because the ends are stable. The middle is very fuzzy, right? So if you are confident,
middle path.
right? So Buddhism says the middle path. But so for example, if you are confident, right, and you're good at what you do, and so you become confident at it, you rise to the top of the hierarchy with confidence, and then you just extreme, you go along the extreme end of the spectrum of confidence, and then because if ever in doubt, you just apply more confidence to it, right? And so you're right the way up the end. Right or wrong, you are confident. And then you encounter what it is to be in the world with so much confidence that you are confidently wrong as much as you are confidently right.
Yeah. It bothers me how much that works.
Well, it works right up until it doesn't.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like a very strong move, but it's like creates a very brittle system.
Right. So if we want a less brittle system, we need to dial back the confidence and be in the middle way. You also can't be unconfident. Well, there is an innovative way to be unconfident where because you're not confident at all, you ask question after question after question after question, and until you can get the whole thing, and then you're so knowledgeable about the whole thing that nothing can stop you. But you've had to spend a really long time asking so many questions and pissing everyone off in the process where they're like, you ask way too many questions.
So yeah, I
middle know, there's got to be a middle point.
Yeah, there's nuance here, I think. Because if you're there are people that are there are people that are confident and they're just confident all the time, and in this way where they have no idea what they're doing, but they're just acting like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people that are unconfident all the time and they're always asking questions, and those people are really annoying because you they don't listen to you.
You can't give them autonomous behavior because keep coming back to question.
Yeah, if they're just never confident, then it doesn't matter. Their questions don't matter. They're a wasting your time.
Well, this is also what happens when we move infinitely down the polarity to the ends, right?
Yeah.
They'll just keep questioning no matter what answer you give them. There will be more questions, and they'll just keep insisting they know what's right, even though down the other end of the spectrum, even though they could be wrong, they'll keep insisting that they are confident and they know what's right.
Yeah. Versus there's, I think
there's got to be a healthy middle.
Yeah. So I think the spiritual path or whatever is to there's a bit of a phase shift from this where confidence exists and is a thing. And then you're not just all the way dial, all the way this, your confidence reflects it. You get to choose, your confidence reflects the reality and you get to choose what you're confident in.
Well, so I suspect the right way to be is dynamic in relationship with confidence.
Yeah, along certain dimensions, I think dynamicism is
with erring on the slightly more confident from neutral side, with dynamic response to lived experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
It's also important to know what you know and know what you don't know, and in that sense, confident in what you don't know as well is very important.
I'm confident I don't know this thing.
As in, as an example that is recent, here's what I do know about Russia, and here's what I don't know about Russia. And it's important that I hold both of those clear in my mind so that I don't pretend like I do know or pretend like I know more, but it's confident in what I don't know that it will downregulate my overconfidence in what I do know. And so hopefully confidence spreads into I'm confident how much I don't understand this and therefore should not act on it.
I'm confident how much I don't understand this, therefore. So I'm confident the right decision is to not do it.
Right, potentially.
Yeah. So we were talking about like the mess thing the other day, and so like yeah, like for me, I'm confident that I don't know what's going on. Like I don't know what's going on enough to make any good decisions, even though I think it's energy and wheat is going to skyrocket in price. But
Yeah.
whatever, I don't even know what that means or how to translate that into the stock market.
Right, into a successful functional movement on the stock market.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel confident that like if I wanted to and I put in the time and effort, I could figure out on a basic level what's going on, like some basic strategies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like for me, the confidence is like, especially if you're doing anything where you want people to follow you, you need to have confidence. Because people aren't going to follow someone without confidence.
I would say that here's how I would think about it. I would think about, and this is one of my like major principles. I would think about demonstrative. So ideally, you want to demonstrate how to be, and if you are right about how to be and you are demonstrating effectively, then other people will see how you're being and they'll want to copy you, and that may mean they'll want to stay with your company, or they may mean they'll want to start acting in the ways that you are acting. And so if that's sometimes that's confidence and you are right about when to be confident and then you can demonstrate it, then they'll also pick up a similar level of confidence and a respect for you because you keep being right.
Right, that's like credibility. Like
Well,
you're building credibility when you
people also like following confident people. It's way more fun, right?
yeah.
Even if it's like fun until they fail and then you get to watch the
There's a segment of the population that will not follow confident people. Like they will only follow unconfident people. Like I've definitely heard the line, I'd be more I think you've heard this line too. I'd be more trusting, I'd trust you more if you were less confident. And like there are people that are like that. Like they won't follow confident people.
So that's interesting
Like they
because
won't follow confident people.
I feel like I am a confident person, but also I don't think anyone's ever said that line to me. Like somehow I've managed to be confident, but not have lack of trustworthiness along with
You're
it.
probably hanging out in better circles than I am.
But like it's maybe a genuine thing that you should go like, you seem very confident and I'm not sure if I can trust you. Like that's should be a healthy thing that someone can say to me, right? And then hopefully I'll say, oh, is there anything I can do to help you feel more comfortable trusting me? And hopefully I can hear what they say and help out and action some of it or offer some reassurance. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think that wasn't exactly my point, but I mean, those are all good things, I think.
Right. So personal development, back to personal development.
Yeah. Oh yeah, personal development within regards to confidence. So I can tell you what I do. I don't know if it works well, but I do it confidently.
Oh yeah.
Is
Daniel, I trust you 200%.
nice. Maybe that's too much. Maybe I should dial it down.
No,
Because
my trust is too high. I'm naive
yeah.
and immature and trusting too well. I'm gonna get burnt by reality. Right.
Yeah, like there is a like a level in which yeah, like I want people to follow me, but like to a certain extent, like like I pledge my soul to you, Daniel, and I will just like copy everything you do. It's like no, that's a bad idea, don't do that.
I am incompetent, do not copy me.
I am not that confident, yeah, that like someone can give over their life to me and like everything will be perfect. Like no. I'm just a person. But yeah, there is like choosing what you're confident in. So like I'm generally pretty confident that I could like figure things out eventually. And I'm usually not confident that I'm much more infrequently confident that like this plan is the best plan and we should not update it. like that almost never happens. And so there is something about like, and then so when I have to make decisions, I'm usually like, this seems like this is, it seems like this is the, like, I'm confident that the decision needs to be made now, at least temporarily. And based off the information we have right now and the way things are, this seems like the best plan to do. And so we're going to do that. And then we do that until new information shows up or something else happens. And sometimes that could be like the whole plan, and then we do the plan and we're done and everything's happy. And sometimes it's like somebody speaks up, then like somebody decides that after the decision is made, that's the time to share the information. And then if that information is important, if that information like changes the calculus, then yeah, like then maybe okay, we tried that plan and now we're doing this one. And so there's like that kind of like confidence and like that moving forward and that kind of stuff without it like being tyrannical and what's a better word, like constrictive on people. And it's interesting because like sometimes like we'll do that, like we'll have the plan. I'm like, I'm confident in this plan. They're like, what about all these things? I'm like, yes, all those things are true and there are factors and this is still the correct decision. And you don't necessarily need, like when you have that kind of perspective, you don't need everyone to be on the same side as your plan. You just need everyone to be on the same side as like a team. And yeah, it does happen sometimes that like people even like this isn't going to work and they'll go out and do a bunch of research and then come back and be like, see, this isn't going to work because of this, this, and this. And like, you want to keep those people on your team. You don't want to isolate them just because they're not on board with the plan. And that's the real confidence of a leader.
Something I am grappling with is often I have a way of doing things that is like honed and worked out. And then when I delegate a task, obviously people will do it in their own ways. But there is something that I am coming to terms with, that somewhere between my way is better. And also I can't micromanage people all the time, but also my way is so much better that maybe I should micromanage them sometimes. And I was just getting the hang of like letting go and letting them do it their way. And it does seem like I have to go back the other way and go back towards some micromanaging.
Yeah, I like to
like, yeah, there's like a balance in here that I'm still trying to work out.
Yeah, I'd like to shift the frame around a little. You don't want to micromanage.
Oh yeah, never really want to.
But it's okay to train them.
Oh yeah, or teach someone how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like obviously I need to do that without the micromanaging side of.
Yeah, and training often looks like micromanaging. But it's like, I think it's that container again where you're like, yeah, I'm going to be on top of you for the next 2 weeks and like look at every single thing you're doing and like, like really like nuance it out. But like, don't worry, like this isn't how you're working. This is just training. And like, I know when I'm trained for things, like I like that because it's like much more intense at the beginning, but the training period is way shorter. And then I'm much more confident in the job. So if somebody's like, they're on top of me every single, like the whole time, like, and then I'm just like, why this way, not that way? Why like this, why like that way? Because, just like questions, and they're just throwing information. And then I can then like once I start getting it rolling, then they start backing off more and more until like I don't see them ever. Except for like every once in a while, like, oh hey, there's this weird scenario, what do you want me to do?
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of the micromanaging comes from. They don't like, it's like the person who's doing the micromanaging doesn't feel like the person who's micromanaged is like trained, can do it properly. Whatever properly means.
Right. It's a
Or
struggle.
there's a definite like, or there's like a, that's the other one, is like there's like a difference in what properly means.
Mm. Yes.
Or like, or the goal or whatever. Like there's different end games.
I think the
Or-
yeah.
Sorry, there's like a million scenarios there.
Yeah.
There's a million things. I said this, but it's just one of the possibilities there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess another one is, if we're gonna do that, another one is, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got this. So another one is that the person's not confident in them. Because like a good manager, like when I was doing the Scrum Master stuff, I was doing all the work when nobody else was working, and then like we show up to the meeting and we're like, okay, this is what everyone is doing, and then that's my job, like I'm done. I'm like, I have nothing to do, because like I was there to just organize everything so that everybody can know exactly what they're doing and like coordinate that and maximize that. And as soon as I'm done, there's no tasks left for me, because I don't want to do anything. because I got other shit to do. I have to figure out what the next thing is, right? I have to figure out what is the thing that nobody's seeing that needs to be done. And I think that's like this stuff, when like all these things we're talking about, like these can be mitigated with personal development. Where like
Right.
why are you micromanaging, right? Like why are you doing this? And sometimes it might, like there might be feelings of inadequacy, or there might be if you're not training them, like why aren't you just training them? Like maybe you feel like they don't feel confident in their work, or they don't know how to talk to people, or they don't know how to tell somebody that what they're doing is wrong. And like I know for me, like being on the other side of that, either side of this, really, I want that confident, like no, this is incorrect, like you're not a bad person and you're new here and all this stuff, and like you're not in trouble, but what you've done is wrong, you need to do it this way. And being able to tell people they're wrong multiple times in a row is part of training. But you want to do it in a way that's gonna leave them feeling good, not feeling shitty. And feeling like hopeful and excited about the future, and like learning, and like good culture, and like all those things, while you're telling them that they're wrong and that they made mistakes and they're fucking shit up. But like you can't say it that way, because you don't want to say it that way. You don't want to hear that. Like it's not a good relationship.
Well, I would say that healthy feedback and unhealthy feedback.
Yeah.
If you want someone to grow, or you want the best outcomes, you got to give kinder feedback than meaner feedback.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because then you get things like the sandwich or compliment sandwich, where you do compliment, then you do the feedback. And like these are one of like this is like cliche and like obnoxious now, but like there was a time when that was like innovative. Probably.
I think that
wasn't alive then, but
what sits on my mind with this one is Ramdas message, where he has a story where he went to his guru and he was like angry he was upset or with other people or something, and he said, what do I do? And his guru says, love everyone. And he says, but I don't want to lie about how angry I am or how upset I am. And his guru says, love everyone and tell the truth. And I rip it out of that context and I put it into like, hey, you need to tell someone they're doing a bad job at work. Love everyone and tell the truth. Somehow you need to, and there is no easy answer. Give them the shit sandwich, right? Compliment, shit, compliment, right? You can't. There is no easy answer like that. You need to love everyone and tell the truth.
It's not a bad structure.
It's not terrible, but to the extent that it got cliche and gets used in toxic ways, it's toxic, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's also I think the strongest reaction that feels genuine that I've heard to it is treat me like an adult. I don't need a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
Just tell me you don't like it, and that's fine, and I can do better. But if you don't, if you try and give me a shit sandwich, we're both gonna have a silly time pretending like it's just shit sandwich when it's not. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Because then they have to eat it, right?
Right.
Like you give someone that shit sandwich, they feel like they have to eat it.
Hmm.
Versus like, yeah, like being straightforward with them.
Right. So, but they still love everyone and tell the truth. You can be straightforward. There's another line, and I guess I'm suddenly pulling out lines. I think this one was from either also Ramdas, or I think it was also Ramdas. Might have been a Marshall Rosenberg. I suspect Ramdas, and it was do what you do with another person, but never put them out of your heart. So I may have to tell you that you've done a bad job, but it's not personal. It's not like you are bad for doing a bad job. You just did the bad job. Like, okay, you're still my friend. You're still like, we still got to work together. I still got to get along with you. But if I'm going to tell you that you've done a bad job, I need to tell you.
Yeah.
So never put them out of your heart is the thing. And that seems to be, as a piece of advice, like, don't shit sandwich. Like, just be honest.
Oh, well, I actually kind of like the shit sandwich in general. Like,
Yeah, it can be fun and honest.
Like for me, it's like it reminds me to compliment. Like, not everyone's like neurodivergent where they just want the information. Like,
right,
they want to feel good while they're getting it.
Right, and some people have blind spots that they're like, I didn't even know that was a problem. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and it is a way to like, yeah, like to humanize them and to keep that heart, like it's not just negative here, because you don't want that relationship to be just negative. You do want, like, oh, I liked your innovation here, but you know what, or whatever, like you find a good thing, like the good thing that they did, and yeah, you build on that. But yeah, you're right, like keeping it in the heart. And that's not like I don't know, at least I don't know of any instructions you could follow that are just do this and then you will keep people in your heart all the time, that aren't just keep people in your heart all the time.
I feel like this is one of those spirituality things where you need to practice it until you're doing it 24/7.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the personal development, I mean, like for me at least, like the coaching stuff is people are like, how do I do that? And you know, like there's no silver bullet. But
I like that question because sometimes, and I'll be cautious when I use this, I'll be like, great, I'm so glad you want to do that. How will you do
that? Yeah, that's a good one.
And because what's happened is this, when someone says to me, how do I do that? They're sort of externalizing, and it depends. Sometimes it can be said in like I don't know how to do that. Can you please explain? And then I'll be like, oh, here's how, here's some explanation. And other times it will be like, I don't want to rely on myself in order to do the thing. And I want to externalize and like, you can tell me how to do it. And then if it fails, it's your fault, not mine. And so that one, I'll turn around and be like, okay, how are you going to do it? And hopefully the person will be like, oh, that's hard. I do want that, but actually it's difficult. I'm going to have a hard time. And that's something honest and genuine and real and grounded that then we can work on, and we can build a plan and be like, okay, let's see, is that going to work? Well, I actually don't think that's going to work. Or, let's try it like this. Is that going to work? Yeah, actually, I do like the sound of that plan better.
Yeah, I think, like that's kind of the next step, is like once they're in that space of like actually trying to figure it out, then it's like, okay, let's figure it out together. And then you help them. And then you kind of, you just stop helping them. And right, it's like the training wheels, right? Like do the training wheels, you hold them, and then they're going, and you just do less and less. And then, then they're just doing it.
My favorite part is when you give the kid the training wheels and you push them off and they're going on their own, and then they like just crash. And you're like, oh no, what have I done? I'm a terrible parent. They actually crashed. These training wheels didn't work at all.
Yeah, they're wearing a helmet.
Yeah, okay.
Once you gotta do that, right? Like you're not pushing them into this like traffic. Right? You're creating the scenario where
safe container.
Safe, and you come there and help them back up and back on the bike. And that's also self-development. Like that's self-development. Like learning how to fall and then get back up is Like that's most of life. I mean, depends who you are, I think, but for me, I think that's most of life is like falling down and getting back up.
Yeah. You can teach you can't teach them not to fall, but you can teach them to get back up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's what you want from people, I think, in general. Because like if you can get back up, then you can take risks. People who don't fall, like older people who don't fall, like
Mm.
they're not taking enough risks in life.
Right. So they're probably not getting out. They're not going for a walk at all, which will probably lead to bone degeneration and injury anyway.
Yeah, and I mean this like metaphorically and real. Although I don't fall a lot. That's true.
I
But like
don't.
not falling. This is a metaphor. I don't mean this like real. I mean metaphorically falling.
I also, there's an interesting balance here because I'm torn between like how often do you trip over, right? Hopefully as an adult, not very often. And if you do, there's probably an opportunity there for you to pay attention to what was going on
Yeah.
before you tripped over and see if you can integrate that so you no longer trip over, right?
Yeah. The thing is though, my other statement still stands. I think I'm retracting that. Because like when I used to play dodgeball, I used to fall all the time.
Ah.
Because
So I
I'm
want to
like
be like,
running, diving, weaving, ducking, right? Like
right. On the one hand, I want to be like, I don't actually make many mistakes because I don't want to make mistakes. And on the other hand, I want to be making sure that I am pushing myself like closer to my edge or closer to my the limits of my ability so that I can grow. So I need to be making some mistakes or at least choosing to make some to be at risk of failure at times so that I can learn from those failures. If I'm never at risk of failure, then I'm never going to learn.
yeah.
So I would say that I nearly never trip anymore. And that is because I increased my mindfulness and reflected on when I did trip until I never tripped again. And so I walk mindfully and I move mindfully, and so I don't really trip.
Yeah. This is a cool thing about mindfulness. But even like within this space, like you're probably anticipating, like when you're walking, and I mean this both in metaphor and real, like when you're walking, or like when I'm driving, like I haven't gotten into an accident and
Many years. Yeah.
yeah. I hit a tree once, like backing up. Like it was very slow. It was like a very slow moving accident. And that's my only
That tree came out of nowhere.
yeah, like it was a turn. Like the car was dented. We still haven't fixed it years ago. But like I have been in because like I'm always trying to anticipate what's going on. And so for me, if I have been in situations where I'm like, whoa, I almost got into an accident there. And that's a fail mode. Like I shouldn't be in a situation where I'm almost getting into an accident.
Right. That's the I don't know if you have whichever the equivalent to work health and safety have the like report near misses. Okay, so in this country we have our the branch of the government that deals with having workplaces that are safe has sort of a phrase to yeah, you call it OSHA. We call it work health safety. They have a phrase of something like report things that are nearly accidents as well, because if you only report accidents, then you're only reporting the catastrophic failures, and you're not trying to reduce the number of catastrophic failures. But if you report things that are near accidents, like, oh, that ladder nearly fell down, then we can replace the ladder before it falls down rather than after it has fallen down.
Yeah.
There was
I used to do that when I was working, and people didn't like that too much.
Historically, there used to be industrial accidents. Like there was factories with like 5,000 people working in them, and they'd have like one death a day. And they were like, well, guess we can never solve this. And then there was this one engineer who came in.
5,000 people, one death a day. That's
yeah, huge.
Huge.
Right. Well, that's what you think it is now, but didn't used to be. Used to be, we were just like, industrial processes are big and complicated. Sometimes people die. And then they this one engineer came in and he was like, no, accidents are preventable, and started
Yeah.
putting like railings up and like safety lines and getting safety procedures until we live in a world where you can say one death a day. That's huge.
What, one death every day out of 5,000? Like that's way too many.
Right. Well,
Like that you're
5,000
gonna
people.
like that's like a you're gonna die in your career.
Right, right.
What
So
is what is that? What is that? Like that's like a year or something. Like I
300,
don't know.
365 a year if you're going like that. But 5,000 people working in one factory is a lot of people.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking an hour. Yeah, so it's yeah, what is it? That's like 10 year like 15 years? Something
Yeah.
like that. Like 15, like your expected lifespan is 15 years.
Mm.
That's insane.
Right. So as it is, we now live in a world where you can say one death a day. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um. So
I
when
guess not even hazard. That's worse than hazard. That's like
right, but you're even to call it a hazard, that used to just be how it was. Working was dangerous.
death row level. That's probably around what death row is.
Right. Well, industry used to be a lot more dangerous. As it is, we also automate a whole bunch of stuff. We have big machinery, but like
Yeah,
working used to be a lot more dangerous.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, now we're like, oh, so yeah, report near misses is the process. Or if you can report things that are almost accidents, then we can fix them before they become accidents.
Yeah.
So that goes for making
I
mistakes. Like
actually very much enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Like that's like the buffering to me, and like that feels like a like my effective altruism like part of me kicks in, because like I feel like those are outsized opportunities, like near misses.
right. Right. So from a personal development perspective, I said it earlier, you might sit with a coach and reflect on your last week. Well, something you might think of is like, what were my near misses? Daniel, what were your near misses over the last week? Things that weren't accidents,
Oh
but
my
could have
God.
been.
Yeah, this whole last week has been crazy.
Yeah. But like, the fact that things come to mind and make you go, oh, yeah, there are problems we could be working on here.
No, but it's
Even
past
without
that.
being
It's at the
specific.
point where it's like
Has it?
it's like, okay, so like there's usually when I'm going through my life, like my life is pretty calm and things happen and I notice them and then I try to deal with that, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, near misses happen and then like that gets put on the list somewhere. But yeah, like this week is like at the point where like yeah, we just found out we have COVID, so that's fun. Well, it's actually kind of like an improvement because everyone was just like things were getting crazy, and now we know what it is, so it's actually easier to do.
People were feeling sick without knowing why, and now you have a why, and so then it will pass.
Yeah, like he's just been crying for the last couple of days, and like I don't know if like he's got a broken bone that I don't know about, or like or like there's something developmental. Like I don't know what like
eat a Lego piece
to make them. Yeah, parents like to make themselves crazy when they have the chance, and so now I'm like, oh, it's just COVID. I'm like, okay, that's a thing that we can deal with.
Cool. But yeah, so on a personal development level, what are your near misses? And I'm like, as I'm sitting here asking, I'm like, what were my near misses?
Yeah. So I've had like some small misses. Like I didn't get any work done today. There's some things I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do it. And I wasn't able to get into I didn't have a good manager. I wasn't able to like get into like that creative like working space to be able to do it. And so I guess like, but it's like whatever, like it's just a delay, like it's like I could do it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like one of those things that it's like moving my life forward. So I didn't move my life forward in this way that I wanted to today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like there's not really a time limit that's relatable.
Okay.
Like there's not a realistic time limit for this. I don't know. Do you count that as a near miss? I count that as like it's like something like that. like I didn't push my boulder. You know what I mean? And not in the like there's Sisyphus, like every day you're pushing your boulder.
Mhm.
And then you do want, like, sometimes you're just like, no, I'm not doing it, and like that's what you should be doing. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to push a boulder anymore, and like that's fine. But
Mm.
this is like, I want to push the boulder. I want that boulder to move, and nobody's gonna move it if I don't move it.
Yeah,
And it's too abstract.
it's a little abstract, but that's okay. So yeah, personal development. We've got to be asking these questions and then
Yeah.
hopefully spending some time working through them. Where are your near misses?
Yeah.
Or, what are the qualities that you seem to be missing in your everyday? Like
Yeah.
confidence.
Where your constant misses. For me, like a lot of it is where my constant misses.
Wow.
Because like I feel like I got into the self-development because like I really need it. And it's like really useful for me. So like, and then as like, so it's like very like practical. So I'm like always like learning the stuff that's relevant to me so I can, I don't know, be more successful or functional or whatever.
Right. Seems like
I don't know. What are your near misses? I feel like I've been sort of just.
What are my near misses?
Starting to bore myself.
So there was one this morning. I was walking a dog and I was sort of organizing my phone in one hand and my several dog leads in the other hand. And then I think the dog's actually new. There's a cat that lives like 2 houses up. And so I'm still sort of getting organized with dog leads and phone and this and that. And then like a dog yanked on me and I was like, oh, I nearly dropped my phone and I was like, oh shit, this is a mistake here. There's something I should address here I wasn't quite ready in some way.
Yeah, like you left the house unprepared for the dog. You left the house to dog walk and you weren't really like prepared for that.
Well, had I spent another 10 or 20 seconds finishing on my phone, putting it in my pocket before I started walking, I wouldn't have had that problem.
Yeah.
So here is an avoidable mistake that I will probably avoid in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean, like doing like multitasking. And
Yeah.
like, especially when you get to these texts that feel like, oh, I'll just send a quick text. It can definitely like get in the way, and then you don't notice the next arising, let's say. So
I think also I'm used to smaller dogs that don't pull so hard.
right.
Grew up with this. When I was walking my dogs when I was younger, they were smaller dogs, and so I'd never encountered a like you'll like rip your arm off sort of. And so it would be fine. I'd hold my phone and then a dog would pull and I'd be like, okay, all right, dog. But this was a new type of dog, a big dog.
You're like using an outdated script.
I guess so, for walking the dog and checking a message at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what dog walking is like. And then you already know, and you're like, oh, it feels fine.
So, I mean, and this is a little bit of a silly, like it's such a irrelevant near miss, right? It was fun. Except that if I drop my phone like has all my information on it. I don't want it to break. That would be really painful if it really was an accident.
Oh, do not save everything to Google?
Lots of things get saved, but it's still inconvenient.
Yeah, it is inconvenient.
I don't know when the last time you were without a phone for a day. Just kind of sucks.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of due for that. Like I haven't broken my phone in many years.
Well,
I just get this phone like I kind of want a new one. One still works.
If I go back like 3 or 4 phones, I think it was 3 phones. I dropped that phone a lot, probably once a week. And really I had to just grow as a human and get more mindfulness. And like this phone, I just have not dropped since I've had it. I've had this for.
And then would you attribute that to
just
like your self-development, or is this like, oh, like my sheaths got myelinated in the last 5 years, so it's probably
I'd say the mindfulness side of personal development. So now I'm deliberate about where my phone is and what I'm holding on to. And like also probably if I was to really try and break down what it was or has been, one is the reflection on mistakes. Two would be a building up of sensitivity of like where my body is and what I'm getting it to do. And so, and again, by looking at mistakes. And three would be a mindfulness around holding my phone when I hold my phone, putting it down when I put it down. So some combination of the sensitivity, the reflection, and the mindfulness would be
This,
why I don't drop it anymore.
yeah, to me, this seems like it's almost as similar to like athlete training or something, where like you could be playing, let's say basketball, like you could just be playing a sport like basketball for fun, or you can be like playing it and like, no, I'm going to be an athlete, and like you like pay attention to everything, and you focus and you think about it and like that, and then you get this like fluidity within that your area of expertise because you've spent so much time processing it and engaging with it. But yeah, but the thing is also I've had things where I'm like a certain level at something and then I leave it for a couple of years. Like I had this with Talmud where I was like at a certain level and then I didn't learn for a couple of years and I came back and I was just so much better. It was just so much easier for me.
Like a more perspective taking mind or something.
It's the Aramaic stuff, like the reading and translating. Like my reading got way better.
Oh, how interesting.
And like it was very clear to me that it wasn't a thing I did. Like it's a thing that happened to me.
I remember learning to juggle.
It was in that like 25 range where like my myelination would have, or my brain would have more fully developed.
I remember learning to juggle. I remember learning to ride a unicycle, and this is a task that takes 5 to 10 hours to accomplish. Right. Once you spend that, then you have the basic level of juggling or the basic level. Some people can do it in half an hour. Some people need a couple of hours. But learning that as a measure of your capacity to learn things. The cool thing about it is particularly working on more complex tricks. So basic juggling, but you add another ball or like try and throw a ball somewhere and catch it without looking can be a little bit more tricky. And sometimes you'll be working on a trick. You can spend 2-3 hours working on a trick and then give up and go away for a week and come back. And when you come back, you just get it.
Yeah.
You almost already had it. And you know, might be the sleep.
I had that with learning to ride a bike too as well. Like the first time, like I couldn't do it. And I went and it's like, I think I had a nap for a couple hours and then I came back and I was able to do it.
Right. So sometimes that happens when learning a skill, that going away and coming back will help you get it.
Yeah. And so what like, does that count? Like, what is that? Like, because it's one of those things where it's like,
what happens when we go away and come back?
Yeah, like well, there's like a process and like memory and sleep and stuff.
So
like an actual like brain thing.
I did this recently. I tried to learn some kite surfing, and not knowing how to kite surf, it's kind of a dangerous thing. Big kite can carry you through the air, but
that actually sounds so cool. I've never done that. I would love to do that.
And I was like, okay, how do I learn this? And part of what I was doing as I was like, didn't actually surf, just flew the kite, trying to get the hang of like you lean to the side and then the kite moves, and then you lean to the other side and it moves. Like,
that's so cool.
There's details, right? But there's like a calibration, right? You need to get to know how far to lean, how far not to lean, because that thing, if it comes crashing down, can be kind of dangerous, right? Yeah. Or expensive if you break something when you crash it down. Anyway, so part of what I was like, what am I doing when I'm learning this skill? Which was fascinating alone. It's nice to have something to learn, so I could ask myself that question.
Yes. But meta awareness during learning is like my favorite thing.
What it felt like is I was looking for the model. Like, what is the model for how this works, right? So I was like feeling into the shape of the reality that I'm trying to manage. So you have like a bar, right? And the bar you tilt and it controls the kite that's all the way up in the sky, right? And there's some relationship between moving my hands and the kite moving, right? Moving the bar and the kite moving. And so I was spending time, it felt like feeling into that relationship between the bar and the kite and understanding that. And so that I could so that in my intuitive mind, I could know the relationship.
Yeah, so that you don't think about your hands, you think about the kite.
Right. And it took me a bit of time of hanging out with, and it felt like I was just hanging out with like, okay, this one causes that, this one causes that. And just like 10 minutes, 20 minutes of like, okay, this one causes that. Okay, this one causes that. Just getting the hang of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And,
just like pushing all the buttons, seeing what they do.
Right. I remember getting a computer or TV for the first time and pushing all the buttons to see what they did. Yep.
Yeah. That's the thing kids can do that. Like I'm realizing like I'm kind of like older that like it's not fun for me anymore to do that.
To push all the buttons?
Yeah.
Ah.
Like sometimes, but it's starting to be a chore to do that. I'm like, okay, now I have to like figure out every single combination of everything and remember it in such a way that's going to be useful. Like I was trying to learn programming, like sort of a little bit, not really too much, but like it's like I'm like oh yeah, I love doing this, and I'm like there are so many fucking buttons here. Like this is an engine. Like I'm never gonna get through this.
Yep. So it felt like what I was doing is I was trying to build the model, and to the extent that it was entirely novel and unknown to me, it was hard to build the model. Right? It was hard to like, even with all my mindfulness, all my meditative, all my reflective, just like took a bunch of time of like tilt this way, okay, that does that, tilt this way, that okay, the relationship sort of feels like, looks like, visualized like this. And now I've gone away, and maybe next time when I go back, it'll just be like, oh yeah, I can see how this A to B sort of relationship, but there's a need to
this is very effective
model for my mind to operate the model.
Yeah.
And
that's fine, because you become an extension, like your identity or your sense of self. In this case, like your proprioceptive map becomes.
This will be kind of funny, but kite surfing reminds me of hand spinning in some way.
Hand spinning?
Yeah, like spinning wheel, the big like Ashford traditional spinning wheel.
Oh wait,
like making yarn out of. Oh gosh, let me pull it up.
I don't know what hand spinning is.
Yeah, you do.
It's an Australian thing. Is it like knitting?
Yeah, like spinning and weaving. Yeah, let's help you out with a little bit of Google. No, not on a loom, on a spinning wheel.
Like making yarn?
Yeah, that thing.
Oh yeah, making yarn out of like wool or something.
Right. So a loom makes cloth out of yarn. A wheel makes yarn out of wool, or out of like
a spinning wheel. Yes, like in that Disney movie where she pricked her finger.
Yes, in the fairy tale. That's correct. It's a spinning wheel. Anyway, interestingly, when you're using a spinning wheel, you're doing one action with your hands to control the wool, and you have a pedal, and you are like pedaling the pedal up and down, and like to control the speed of the wheel. And so there's a need to like learn a skill where you differentiate your hands from your feet, and you differentiate your foot from, it's only one foot. So your foot from your hands altogether. And so kite surfing feels a bit like that, in that you have to control the kite with your hands, and then obviously you need to do stuff with your feet as well.
And those are different, like it's not coordinated. Like driving, you're doing that, but it's
right. So for example, with riding a unicycle, you use your arms for balance at the same time as using your feet. But like driving, the way that you use your feet and the way that you use your hands are really quite different tasks in relation to the driving.
Oh, right?
Like you don't move when you turn your hands, right? You don't turn your.
You're not doing it at the same time, but you're doing one task where both these things coordinate together.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So with kite surfing, it feels like it's a bit like driving as well, that there are different tasks, like where you move your hands. Like with driving, you have your hands on the wheel, right? And the wheel thing does one specific dimension, and accelerated brake does another specific dimension. Whereas, with the kite, like moving the tilt does a specific dimension, but your feet do a very different dimension. So yeah.
Yeah, I know for like driving for me, I was like, I just did the pedals first, like just straight line, do the pedals.
Yeah.
And once I got the hand of the pedals, then it's like, okay, now I can do the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And then it was very easy to add in the steering wheel.
That's funny. I was taught the other way around. I think I was sitting on a parent's lap doing the steering wheel and they were doing the pedals. And like the slowly accelerator, slowly brake. And I was doing the like driving, like, turn to go around the tree sort of driving.
Yeah, my parents, I don't think they really let me drive when I was underage.
Or it was private property and I was going at about the speed.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying.
And then I learned the pedals. Interestingly, people forget this part, but it's very important, and I'm going to repeat it just in case someone out there hears it. There's a part of the process of many different skills is using the brake, right? Learning to drive using the brake, learning to ride a bike using the brake, right? And often we tell people how to go forwards, like this is how you accelerate, before we tell them how to use the brake.
Yeah.
And that is a mistake. And it makes sense, right? You need to know how to go, and then later in a moment you realize you need to know how to stop, right?
Yeah.
But actually, we should tell you how to stop first, and then tell you how to go. And then once you're going, you'll know how to stop. You then use the stop skill that you already have. Yeah. But it's actually very funny that we I've made the mistake enough times that I learned how to go before I learned how to stop, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But actually, stopping as a skill is probably a prerequisite to before you learn to go.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, no, I do think though with I gotta say the point of driving is that I think like all the cars here, like after a certain year, it's they have a certain amount of gas. So if you just take your foot off the brake, then you move forward.
Right.
That's how you learn it first.
So with driving, yes, you can learn the brake first, and then letting go of the brake means rolling.
Yeah, but this as a metaphor, yeah.
Yeah, but importantly, in other domains, any domain where you're teaching someone something, you want to be teaching the brake as well as, and possibly before the accelerate. I think I do it with my meditation teaching as well, that I'm teaching the brake as well as the accelerator.
Interesting. I'm curious how you do this.
Well,
I have a very specific way of doing this.
For example, with concentration, right? We encourage concentration, but we sometimes forget to encourage the non-concentrating, relaxing thing. Like there's a whole dimension there of like, oh, I know how to concentrate because I learned how to turn up the concentration, right? But the turn down the concentration is also an important skill.
Yeah, that's tunnel vision if you can't do that.
Right. And the same applies for other domains of meditative skill.
Yeah.
But yeah. So as a philosophy, I'm gonna say, remember the brake first. Teach the brake first. But that's like I guess if you're using an industrial machine or like even a soldering iron, you need to know how to turn it off before you.
Yeah. I actually wonder if like in self-development, a lot of the people are afraid to be ambitious or to do the things or take risks or whatever. Because not because they don't know how or that they don't want to, but they're afraid that if they start, they won't be able to stop.
Right. And there is something like when you take on responsibility, it's very hard to take off responsibility, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like once you have a kid, you have a kid.
Right. It's quite difficult to put it on pause. You can go away for a week and get someone else to take care of the kid, but you can't fully unload. And even so, it's like a poor example of getting out of your responsibility.
Yeah. Well, like it depends, right? Like, when he gets older, he's going to camp and stuff like that.
Right. School will take him for the day, a bit here and there.
We do nights. Like, we'll drop him off at my mom's for a day.
Right.
But we don't really do 2 days in a row.
Right. Yep, all part of it. Anyway, yeah. Point there, the brake. Remember to learn the brake first.
Yeah. And to continue the metaphor, I find for a lot of the things that you're doing, like concentration or any of the stuff that people want to learn, confidence, whatever it is that's going on. You're almost always doing some level of that at the beginning, right? It's just like no one's not concentrating at all, right? Like you got
Well, I would say if they're not able to receive the instructions of
they're
meditation.
not able, they're not able to ask for that. You can't say, hey, I have trouble concentrating, and like have a conversation about it. Like get to that point, right, without them being able to do it at some level. And so there is already, they're doing something. And then I find also with beginners, they get tired very quickly. So that's like an automatic break, right? Like I can do it for like 3 hours and they can't.
Right.
Like
This applies to any skill, right? Beginners get frustrated or tired or distracted fairly quickly. Yeah, like, I want to learn to juggle, but after half an hour, I'm like frustrated because I haven't caught 3 in a row.
Yeah,
So I need a
and
break.
that's like you can just do like that's okay. Like it takes time to build up those muscles, right? Like first time you go to the gym, you're not going to be able to like run for 3 hours straight your top speed. You're going to start at a certain point, and that's good. Like you did a good job, and do it again. And again and again until you realize that you don't need the other person there to help you. You can just do it on your own.
Maybe that's a good place to round up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there anything else that
I think there's more in terms of what is personal development and how to get into it. There's obviously, to name some things, there's like vertical development, and there's
we didn't even
meditative
do
horizontal, like type systems.
Yeah, I feel like we need to scratch the surface. We just talked somewhat about like what the surface looks like.
Yeah,
without scratching it.
All right.